What they do, what it is, this is Orion, aka Brass Balls, coming at y'all with another installment of Deep Dive Tape Stash. This is a special episode given that it is episode 100. Before we even dive into it, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel Orion Hip Hop, where you can peep previous episodes of Deep Dive Tape Stash, Deep Dive Top 5, and a lot of dope ass music from yours truly, along with some obscure demos you may or may have never heard. I wanted to do something special given that this is episode 100. I am doing a tape review. However, this is not a tape cassingle. This is not a tape cassette. This is a VHS tape. That's right, y'all. I have a few of these in my collection, and this is one of them that I'm proud to have. This is a movie that I grew up with. It's a cult classic. It's from the genius known as John Carpenter, most notably known for Halloween, and also notably known for another cult classic, The Thing. And I'm talking about this VHS tape in front of you, They Live. Now, They Live has a lot of social commentary that's still relevant to this day, but it's an alien movie. And it was an adaptation from a short story from 1963 called 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, before the cops woke up Ice-T at 6 in the morning, before Nonchalant was trying to rescue some kids from hustling on the block at 5 o'clock in the morning, back in 1963, there was a short story called 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's what this movie was adapted from. I actually took some time to read this short story. It's pretty dope. There's definitely a difference between how the movie rolls out and how the short story rolls out. So it was dope to see what adaptations John Carpenter kept and what he didn't keep from the short script. So, for example, in the short story, the main character, George Nada, he's in some type of event where there's a hypnotist. And when he awakens from his hypnosis, he begins to see the aliens, which is different than the movie where these special glasses is what allows you to see the aliens. And also how it rolls out and how he goes about uncovering the conspiracy for all of mankind to see that aliens are walking and ruling among us is quite different than the short story written in 1963. But the final ending, and you know, this is a spoiler alert, but come on, y'all, this movie's been out for quite some time now, so I really don't care about any spoiler alerts at this point. But how it rolls out in the movie, where he basically is able to go to one of the premier news cable channels or whatever and knock out their satellite, that pretty much rolls out the same in the short story. However, in the movie, it appears that George Nada's character is shot after he does this. In the short story, he has a heart attack, as predicted earlier on in the short story. So, you know, this movie, I remember seeing it when I was in first grade with my pops. You know, this was the late 80s, y'all. So parents really weren't all doing the helicopter parenting thing or parental control thing. I saw a lot of movies I probably shouldn't have seen as a youngin', you know, in first grade, but it is what it is. I'm glad I saw this movie. It really informed my mind as to what you see may not be what you should believe all the time, I felt. And like this movie taps into subliminal messaging that is given to us by way of advertising, by way of television, radio, and I always thought that was pretty cool. It formed my mind as to what a broader conspiracy could be and powers that be that may be in control of things. John Carpenter is a master storyteller. He's most notably known for Halloween and another cult classic, The Thing. I actually remember seeing The Thing all the time at the video store, and it just didn't look appeasing to me. But when I finally saw it, man, what a classic that was. And much like They Live, The Thing didn't do that well in the box office. And so, although this became a cult classic, from what I've read and from what I've seen in interviews and in the description box, I'm going to put some links to some cool videos of interviews with John Carpenter and stuff, of people breaking down the history of this. But basically, he couldn't get any funding for a sequel to They Live or The Thing because of how poorly they did in the box office. However, these would later on go to be cult classics. Roddy Piper, this was his first and pretty much only major acting role, but he did a really good job in this film. And this is another thing that turned me on to the film, is the fact that at the time when I was a jit, I was very much into WWF. So seeing a movie with Roddy Piper was really dope. And I thought he played a really good blue-collar anti-hero, if you will. And the movie is also very known for the infamous fight scene in an alley between George Nada, Roddy Piper, and Keith David, who plays Frank. And this fight scene is like, it's been redone on South Park, which was a hilarious episode. But I always loved this fight scene as a jit too. I think the reason they added this in, and more so John Carpenter, because this wasn't a part of the short story that I mentioned earlier, 8 o'clock in the morning, which this movie was based on. But I think it was added in because of who Roddy Piper was. Gave you a really good fight scene. If you were a wrestling fan, this is exactly what you wanted in this movie. So I thought it was real dope that they did that. And Keith David is an amazing actor and somebody that appeared in a lot of John Carpenter movies, including The Thing. Now, to stay on brand with what I do with these deep dive tape stash episodes, there is extreme hip-hop influence that this movie had. First, most notably, I'm going to say the MC Cage, his first debut solo album, Movies for the Blind. The cover for this album was completely influenced by They Live. He also samples the movie in a song called Teenage Death. My album, Esperanza, my first solo album, I sampled the meeting that the Resistance was having in the underground when they were coming together. So that's an interlude on my album Esperanza, you could go check out. Binary Star, a track called Indy 500, and the MC out of the West Coast, Paris, a song called House Niggas Bleed 2. They both sampled the same thing, which was this scene where this hobo guy is basically talking to George Nada's character and Keith David's character and telling them that they should fall in line and that it's you shouldn't resist, that what's wrong with having it good for a change,
and they're going to let us have it good if we just help them.
That's a big commentary on just society in general when falling in line with these powers that be, who may not have your best interest in mind at the end of the day and would rather sell out the rest of us. A commentary on elite versus the common man, and how someone like this hobo would sell us out just out of pure self-preservation. And I think that's why it appeals to so many people to sample it as an intro to songs and stuff. There is another great quote in the movie. John Carpenter stated in an interview that this was pretty much Roddy Piper off the cuff, ad-libbing the part of the movie where he says, "I've come here to chew gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum." That was a Roddy Piper ad-lib apparently that he did. And to this day gets sampled a lot in for tracks. I found a lot of techno tracks that had that sample in it. Another notable reference to the movie was a couple years back, I would say almost 2 decades ago. David Banner and Ninth Wonder had a collab album that they released. They had a video for a song called Slow Down, and in that video they basically parody this movie. This movie was used as their reference point for that video, and it's a pretty dope video. I'll put a link to that video and a link to some of these tracks that I mentioned in the description box. Now, as great as this movie was, as dope as it was for a cult following and everything, and like I said, it didn't do well in the box office, and that's why we never got a sequel out of this, unfortunately. There is, for those people out there that are fans that may not be aware, there is a comic book that was made that was a continuation of what happened. So, that's something actually I'm gonna look to see if I could cop these comics, and if I do, maybe I'll do an episode on those comics. I don't know. If you want to see that, drop a comment. If I get at least 10 comments requesting for me to do a deep dive on the They Live comic books that came out after the movie, I will definitely make sure, no matter what the price is for those comics, I will buy them and make a video about them. But y'all gotta drop a comment and force my hand on that. You feel me? The last thing I want to say is the ending of this movie was something that imprinted in my young, impressionable mind. And I'm speaking about the scene after George Nada, Roddy Piper's character, basically shatters the satellites and breaks humankind away from this alien reptilian species, whatever you want to call them, spell on us. And everybody, there's people at the bar that start recognizing, like, oh shit, I'm sitting next to an alien and everything. The one scene that got me is how this movie ends is masterful, and that's some broad having sex with an alien, and then that happens and she realizes she's having sex with an alien. That's how this movie ends, y'all. And I saw this in first grade. Shout out to my pops. So that's what it is. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Yo, mad respect, salute to all of my subscribers, all of my peoples out there that is keeping up with these episodes and always commenting. I truly appreciate y'all. Peace.